students. Our today's topic is A Triumph of Surgery, written by James Herriot, who is also the narrator of the story. As you know that we are revising our syllabus for first periodic test. Now I am telling you some important points and facts of this chapter, A Triumph of Surgery. Here triumph means victory, winning something. The narrator of the story is Mr. Herriot, who is also the writer of the story. He is a veterinary surgeon. Veterinary surgeon means, you can say, animal doctor. He was really worried about the dog. Its name was Tricky, Tricki. He was shocked to see it with its mistress. The name of the mistress is Mrs. Pemphare. The dog had become hugely fat. Its eyes has become red. Its tongue came out from the jaws. It was in a state of disease. The mistress of the dog was Mrs. Pemphare. She told Mr. Herriot that the dog seemed to have no energy, no enthusiasm. So she gave it more malt. Malt means drink, and cod liver oil. Cod is the name of the fish, and a bowl of Horlicks. She also gave it some cream cakes and chocolate despite Herriot's refusal. So she gave him rich diet. Herriot looked at the dog again. Its big trouble was that it had become greedy. This dog eats a lot of food. It did not refuse food. Herriot asked Mrs. Pemphare if she had been giving the dog penalty of exercise. She said she had not. So Herriot warned her, if she didn't cut its food and give it more physical exercise, it would be really ill. She said that he was right, but it was really difficult task for her. Within next few days, Mrs. Pemphare told Herriot that Tricky didn't eat anything. It refused to eat even its favorite dishes. It spent all its time lying panting. Panting means breathing heavily. The narrator had made his plans in advance. He suggested that Tricky should be hospitalized for about a fortnight. The lady almost became unconscious, became deeply depressed after listening this. She was sure that it would die if he did not see it. The narrator took the dog in his car. Mrs. Pemphare gave Tricky's belongings like bed, cushions, toys, various bowls, coats, etc., other things. At the hospital, Tricky looked down at other dogs. They sniffed around it and simply ignored it. The narrator kept an eye on Tricky for 2 days. He gave it penalty of water but no food. On the 3rd day, it started whimpering. Whimpering means crying softly on seeing other dogs. It followed them down the garden. Later that day, other dogs had their food. When they had finished, Tricky walked around the bowls. He also licked the bowls. It means he was hungry. So it was given some food now. Tricky started to show progress. Tricky is becoming better day by day. Health is improving. It was given no medical treatment. So Tricky became alright without any medical treatment. It discovered the joy of being with other dogs. Tricky played with other dogs. Meanwhile, Mrs. Pemphare continued ringing regularly. She asked various questions about Tricky, but the narrator told her that the dog was out of danger. Mrs. Pemphare started to bring round fresh eggs to build up Tricky's strength. The narrator began giving Tricky wine before and during the meal. The dog began to drink brandy also. Tricky now had 1 extra egg in the morning. It had wine at noon and brandy in the evening. After a fortnight, the narrator rang her up saying the dog was alright, completely fine. Mrs. Pemphare arrived at the narrator's surgery in a big car. She asked him if the dog was better. The narrator told her that the dog was completely fine. He would bring it to her. When Tricky saw its mistress, it ran into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap. It began licking her face and barking, showing positive gesture. The narrator helped the driver to bring out Tricky's various things. These were Tricky's beds, toys, cushions, bowls. They had not been used. As the car moved away, Mrs. Pumphrey leaned out of the window. Tears shone in her eyes. Her lips trembled. She told the narrator that it was a triumph of surgery. So, my dear students, I have written two questions for you. Two important questions. How does James Herriot treat the dog? The doctor, means James Herriot, gave Tricky no food but penalty of water. So much amount of water for 2 days. Slowly, the dog started showing interest in his surroundings and began mixing with the other dogs. And Tricky recovered slowly and steadily without any medical treatment. This is very important point, that Tricky recovered slowly and steadily without any medical treatment, whereas Mrs. Pumphrey assumed that Tricky had undergone surgery. Second question. Why does Mrs. Pumphrey think the dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery? Mrs. Pumphrey thought that the dog's recovery was a triumph of surgery because in 2 weeks, Tricky had recovered completely and had been transformed into a hard-muscled, means fit and fine dog. When Tricky saw her, it leaped into her lap and licked her face, jumped into the lap. She was so excited that tears started rolling out her eyes. She was so excited that tears started rolling out of her eyes. She declared Tricky's recovery as a triumph of surgery to express her happiness and gratitude, thankfulness towards the doctor. Thank you. Have a nice day.